Hello. Welcome to the Helm Dev meeting, April 16th, 2026. We've got a good crew with us today. Uh, I am just going to note that we're having Zoom's automatic note taking turned on just for fun, not as a process change. Um, Karen is still taking notes today, and everyone else is, of course, not only welcome, but encouraged to help with that. And please add your agenda items. We're pretty light on them now. Um, I'm sure we have things to talk. Actually, I know we have a few things to talk about based on the folks that are here and what I remember from Slack and from GitHub. But we can compare the output of that note, those notes, and decide if we want to do anything with them or just delete them and not do that again. Okay. The very first, well, I'm going to hold for a moment because I know that there is an agenda item being typed out right now, and I know what it is. Okay, yeah. So, George, over to you for agenda item.
Yeah, quick announcement that we released the patch releases 3.0.2, I think it was, and 4.1, 4.1.4. Um, and these were largely security fixes, um, for everybody's awareness. I don't think there was any other changes that were CVE fixes. So yeah, they're out there. Have been for a week or so.
I just want, I think that's the only agenda item right now. Quick quick note on that item. George, I owe you a reply about patch policy stuff. I've just been for the last few days just been hammered. Not hammered, swamped. The hammer has come down on work, not on a bender. Not that that would be bad, but okay, so I put that as a discussion item, George, if we decide to get to it on this call. Uh, Matthias, you're the first item. Do you want to do a quick intro to this? I'm
Yeah,
opening
sure.
it now.
But thanks, Karen, for letting me go first. Uh, yeah, in the last couple of dev meetings, I just brought up that we have some regressions to fix. We already merged two of the PRs, thanks Terry and Evans, who reviewed, approved, and merged. There's just one less PR in the list across all known issues so far that Flux users have reported. So it's just one. I linked the PR there in the agenda. This one is actually, I thought it was going to be large, but it's actually the smallest of the last three PRs I filed. So if you can please take a look, it's actually not quite complicated. Basically, on Helm 4 we now also uh, pass hooks to post renderers. And for some post renderers, that's a problem because, for example, in Flux, we use customize as a post renderer and it does not allow multiple objects with the same fully qualified name in the stream. For example, there are charts out there that have a service account for a pre-install hook that is the same service account on the templates that lives in the long run. So for this to go back working, we basically need to pass the hooks through post renders in a separate stream from templates. And that's exactly what my PR is doing. Instead of calling post renders once, we call it twice, once for hooks, once for other things. Um, it's quite straightforward. There's a very comprehensive test there that actually builds a chart with this exact example and verifies that it works as expected, like it did in Helm 3. Uh, that's it. I mean, thanks Terry and Evans for reviewing and merging my PRs. This is the only one left to go so far. No, nothing else reported in Flux. If you can please do it as soon as possible. We're planning to release a patch, a Flux patch tomorrow, and we're gonna uh, cherry pick this PR in our Helm fork for it. Um, so it would be great if it was merged to the main branch by tomorrow, if possible.
Question: is it an opt-in behavior? Because one of the rationales for putting the hooks into
No,
the
it's
output
not an
stream
opt-in
was
behavior. It's a regression fix. It's not an opt-in behavior.
because yeah, the intention of the change from Helm 3 to Helm 4 was so that the post render would get the hooks. That was like that was an intentional.
Oh,
Well, that's a
but
breaking
to be
change in
clear,
chart v2, right? Should be a chart v3 thing.
wait,
So
but
it
just to be
doesn't,
clear, you're not removing the hooks from post rendering. You're just
no.
calling them into two, if I understand correctly, you're calling the post renderer twice within the same command invocation, but in two separate sandboxes, so they don't conflict.
Yes, correct. Exactly. So yeah, like it's not, I'm not removing functionality. I'm really just fixing a bug. So yeah, a regression from Helm 3.
It is interesting because I was thinking of cases where I do think an opt-in might be worth considering here, but not because of what you were just mentioning, George, because I think that was clarified, right? Like it's not removing that functionality. It's basically refactoring. Yeah. So, but I was thinking of a case where what if one of the things you want to do with your post renderer is actually modify the hook annotations? This sort of breaks that, right? Because they get merged at the end.
It's I don't know how to affect people who
Actually,
assume
no,
that they
maybe
only get one. I mean, you
never
can
mind.
still change
I'm
hook
wrong.
objects. It's just you don't get the full set of hook objects.
Yeah,
Um,
never mind. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It wouldn't, since they're merged in the end, it would still be fine. You could still do that.
sorry, so you don't get the full set of objects in one post render pass, which may be like for
Right.
Ingie's YAML script thing might be a breaking
Right.
flaw for Ingie. I think
That would
we
probably
might
still
need
be
to
fine
make
for
this.
Ingies too, right? Because in the end the post render is after any render v1 plugins in the chart defined plugins hip architecture that's not even implemented yet, but still this would work with that too, right? Because they would run first and then have the rendered output, and then that rendered output would be sent at the end to a post renderer would get a final pass. It just gets two final passes, hooks and non-hook resources just separately, but it's still
Yeah.
It's invoked twice. I can yeah. I'm just
yeah.
trying to reconcile how it might affect.
I know. Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was thinking too. I was initially thinking, what if you wanted to move them from one group to the other? But in the end, it's not actually grouping, it's just an implementation detail. Um, it is
well,
an interesting thought, though, that what if there are things that we are not considering or use cases that we're not considering here? Um, we could definitely put more thought into it. And we don't want lots of flags unnecessarily. It's one of the things that we cleaned up in Helm 3, but we could put a little bit more thought into it. And an opt-in at least in the SDK, you know, could could be a valuable thing to add to this because you could just enable that, with as an SDK user that knows that they're passing it through customize, because the limitation isn't here is really primarily in customize, right? Or maybe other tools that would have a deduplication like catch,
yeah.
A
I'd say
question.
that
Isn't all
right?
of this behavior something attached to the version of charts API? Like, it isn't this behavior supposed to be chart API v2, which should still be supported in Helm 4?
Yes, it was a
Mm,
new feature. It was a new backwards compatible feature added to like the ability to put you can still add I mean, we have been all along adding new features to Chart API v2. The point of it is that it must be backwards compatible. In this case, you found a regression. It's a corner case at least. But it's a regression in post renderers that formerly worked fine with a a Kubernetes resource name and resource and version deduplication like Customize does. Now they break. So yeah,
to answer the question, Drew, I think post renderers are outside of the chart specification. That's more of a Helm behavior. So we made uh, a breaking change per se between Helm 3 and 4. And we
right.
said originally that Helm 4 would intend to support the vast majority of charts and workflows. And it seems like if you have a chart which uses a hook resource with the same name uh, as a main resource, then it will break the customized post renderer, which seems like a very edge case to me. Um, I I don't know what the best option here is. We could just say to people like you need to change your charts. It's no longer compatible with home fill post renderers. That is one option. I'm not saying it's the best option. I'm just saying that's the spectrum that we have.
I would like to request you to reconsider this and like consider this a chart API v2 thing because Flux is 100% post renders. Like you're breaking something very major here in Flux. Like Flux does not run without post renders. So I think post renders deserve chart API first class treatment.
Yeah. That's the question. The question I think we're talking about now is should it be something that the SDK user would opt into with Helm
Yeah,
4?
that
That's the only question right now. Not that should this
fair,
fix
fair,
be
fair.
added.
That's fair. Like we can,
Yeah.
yeah, we can just like influx with like set through to a Boolean or something, right?
Yep.
Something like that, right? Like just
I would propose
use
a hook run strategy, but something like, but anyway, um, I, I don't necessarily disagree with anything you're saying. I'm just trying to like say there's a spectrum of potential options here, um, overall, and I think we need to think out about I'm hesitant to say we should change behavior in Helm 4 at this point because if we do revert back to Helm 3, it will either break someone in one weird and wonderful way, and then we have to add uh, this strategy anyway. And we suffer breaking people, or we um, and it was an explicit intention to stick the hook objects into the post renderer, and that was a requested feature by a bunch of users. So it's like one of these kind of corner cases, like we made a change, it didn't work for 100% of people. So what's the best way to move forward? I think.
But George, I think Matthias still wants the hook, doesn't want to remove the hooks from post renderers, just change the
Yeah,
Right,
implementation of it.
separately.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Yeah, and
removing
So,
it all,
so
just
Scott, I
just
kind of
So,
agreed with what you
yeah.
said earlier, which is that we could do this as an SDK change. Um, there could literally just be like two functions, one that calls hooks, one that calls non-hooks, and then the CLI just calls both of them and outputs that as a whole. So it doesn't change the CLI behavior, but there's now a way to split it out with the SDK. And we don't even have to add a flag at that point because unless somebody asks for that same change to be made to the CLI, there's no need for it.
yeah,
I would
yeah, that
interpret
makes
this
sense.
as we have a hook run strategy. We're just not adding a flag to the CLI, but apart from that, the everything else would be the SDK would have
But
to opt into.
if once we have the functionality in there, if somebody asks for it to be managed that way through the CLI, then we could add the flag later. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, let's not pollute the flags.
Mhm.
so how
That
would
makes
this
that makes total sense.
Boolean opt-in look like? It's a so today we pass hooks and templates to post renders. What we want to change here is passing them separately. So
So you got a
separate.
so you got a post render dot run, and we could have we could turn post render.run to where it runs to different other functions, post renderer hooks, post renderer main. So post
Mm,
renderer hooks would have its own run, post renderer main would have its own run, and then post
But
renderer would
then we're
just run
removing
both.
functionality from.
No, because then post render would just run both. So it leaves post renderer alone, so it still produces the same output. But then Flux could run post renderer hooks, post renderer main runs separately.
The the change that I'm concerned about is invoking the post renderer without without the full set of objects, because that's what we said we're doing in Helm 4. So
Right.
even if we don't expose the flag to the users to separate this, if we just do it anyway, then we're kind of we're at least changing that contract. Whether we're breaking the contract, I don't know, um, but that's the concern at least.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I'm thinking that this should be on the action level, which is where Matthias, like, this PR already does the change. Um, so potentially there's a the split and deannotate function is what you changed, right, Matthias? Yeah,
let me
and that is
remember
an
here.
internal function. That's why you already added a fallback prefix to this. You could add an additional flag that's something like that literally just says like split hooks. It could
Right.
default false, which would be the exact behavior we have now, but then the SDK user could pass true, and then in that case, it would split them,
Yeah,
which
I'll
is
see
exactly what you're doing.
how this is like how do we actually wire from the public interface into split and deannotate since it's private. But
Right, right,
yeah.
right. We'd have to exactly. It would have to wire up to the public interface. And what we've done in the past is we end up having, um, yeah, you still keep um, the upstream public function the same, right? So it's backwards compatible, but you add an additional function that wraps that adds the option. I know that
So
there's different patterns. We've looked at them recently. I know George and I were looking at those patterns recently, and so are Evans and I. There's kind of like a with context or those type of functions. But I think the way we have our actions, I don't believe we can do that. I mean, take a look, but I think what we do generally is we have like wrapper actions to
yeah.
add the additional functionality. We keep the the action
Yes.
as we had it the same.
Or it could be the other way around, similar to what I just put in chat, where you'll still get the same result, but you have those two sub functions that you could call independently.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah. I actually said it backwards, but yeah, exactly.
But we don't call the post renders ourselves. We don't we don't call them. We pass
Well, I mean, this is
implementations.
this is the
Yeah.
that's the concept. It doesn't have to be in that particular place, but the idea being just keep the currently exported function functional, and then and just have
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wrap to sub functions.
Yeah, but the currently exported
One or more.
function is like install run with context or upgrade run with context. So I think we're talking about
Yeah,
passing
okay.
in an option field somewhere,
I see what
like
you're saying.
yeah, in configuration, for
Yep, yep, yep.
example.
Yep, okay. Then I guess it has to be an option flag. I mean, it doesn't have to be flagged on the CLI, I guess, but it doesn't matter at that point.
But as soon as you split it up into run on hooks and run on main, it will always be split up. So at that point, you don't need the option flag anymore because it's already split up and the context is passed separately. So you have
Yeah, yeah.
effectively
So
always call post renderer twice. And that's all that Mateus wants.
yeah, but what we just said is that it's not that like SDK users do not call run post renders. They pass an implementation, so the action calls it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So we have to
So yeah,
pass a boolean or something or whatever
yeah,
will branch the behavior.
yeah. The question is just now how do you get to that code? So yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe this is like not really micromanaging it. Oh, yeah, yeah, there we go. Yeah, but I mean ultimately like we have you want to wire it up through the install action, right? Or
Yeah,
one of the actions.
install and
So
upgrade.
yeah, so in the end, like I think you'll look at that and find the correct backwards compatible way to do that. And if there's a problem with that, then we'll comment on that on the PR. But I think
Cool.
we're all are at least in our minds solving the same thing with like there are only three patterns available for this, I think. And you just have to find that and just make sure it gets wired up through the action.
Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah, that's solid input. I have what to work with, and I hope I will change my PR today and have it ready for review.
Please feel free to ping in Helm Dev.
All right. I'll ping you, Joe, George,
Well, I'm only offering to ping myself.
possibly,
If they
possibly
join the
Joe,
thread, then
Johannes.
yeah, they
Everybody
also
who
join.
participated on the discussion, basically. All right.
So
Thanks. I have
Great.
to drop to another meeting. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Yes. Um, Karen, you have got the next
Um,
item.
yeah, I got an email from I think the people behind Kappa.ai. I don't know if anyone else, like if any of the other maintainers got anything for this. It looks like they are partnering with CNCF and it's like a AI assistant tool to basically like go through your like project, your docs, whatnot, and then I think it creates like an interface for you for users to chat with. And I don't know, they mentioned that there are some other CNCF projects that are already using it, like OpenTelemetry and maybe like OPA and whatnot. I do not personally have an opinion here. I just don't know if anyone else is familiar with this. Is this something we're interested in? Should I respond? Anyone? Yeah, like, yeah. I just want to make sure like did it didn't just get like swept under the rug because we missed it or something.
Thank you. There is another project that we are currently
I thought so.
evaluating. Yes,
Okay.
and I am literally looking for um Carrie, Carrie, you're on, right?
it's
Can you remember the name of that project right now? I'm thinking about eight things.
first.
I'll look for it if we can't. Yes, thanks, Evans. Prompt us. Um,
So
Oh,
go on. Or yeah, sorry,
yep,
I interrupted
you
you.
first.
So promptless is used to generate docs. So looks at your
mm,
code and then generate docs, proposes a PR. I think Matthias's PR is a good example. I just posted here, but it's in the documentation, but there you go.
I
Um,
see. It's
uh,
different.
so promptless, yeah, it's a bit different. So promptless will
Yes.
come, once you create a PR, promptless will look at that PR and note that, hey, this PR has content that needs to be updated in the docs. And then it will create a PR in the docs repo with a description of or an update in sections in the docs. Now, I think what Kappa AI, if my understanding is right, will do or is proposing to do is look at our docs and people can just interact with it and ask questions. Hey, what can I, what's this? What's that? Um, how can I create a chart? What new feature? How can I use this new feature? I think that's what it is, right?
I think so, yeah, because it's um yeah, it's mostly I think yeah to like answer questions and whatnot, and then it says basically turns every question your users ask to actionable insights for your docs and product roadmap. Yeah. Um,
Actionable
anyway,
insights.
yeah. And then yeah, I didn't click on the link because I don't want to click on random links. But yeah, I mean they said that like Ehor from CNCF and the team kind of wrote up like the partnership. So there is supposedly like this is yeah, like officially in partnership with CNCF.
Got it. Where do we see anything from CNCF about partnership?
I can dig a little bit more. I just got this sent to my work email, which like then it went in the junk mail, and I just stumbled on it. So I wasn't sure if anyone else even got it and how they got my email.
I saw it, but I didn't dig yet.
Okay, yeah, I can dig.
I
Maybe that's the next step, just to like make sure it's like legit and yeah.
verify. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
That sounds interesting. I mean, we're exploring like already like tools to help. But there are some like the places where AI tools are like really harming open source projects. These are not those. Um, and we already integrate with things like Algolia search and um, other tools to make it's not AI based, but it's at least not what we are enabling. But I think they do have an option for that we've disabled. Um, maybe we can find, yeah, explore, maybe make a proof of concept
Yeah.
in
I just want to give a time check. Sorry.
time check as we've got 1 more minute. So thanks,
Yeah.
Karen. Uh, the patch thing, George, we'll just communicate about and bubble up when needed. Assignments for next week. Who wants to moderate? Anybody that's
I think I can.
here? Anybody can want to be an understudy in case George can't? Evans? Okay, great. Oh, sorry, you're doing notes and I just overwrote you. Who wants to do notes next week? I can do it if no one else can. You just put me down for it. And what about issue triage this week? Awesome, Evans. That's cool. And actually, I want to just make a small recommendation. Johannes, is that how you pronounce it? Okay. We were talking in Amsterdam about you potentially helping with this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Would you be interested in like shadowing Evans maybe, or at least just like doing your
definitely. I've
part to
already
help? You don't have
started
to do.
last week answering a few things, or this week. Yeah, so yeah, anytime.
Awesome. Okay, and then PR review in addition to Terry. You can put me down for that too. Anybody else? Joe? I mean, Joe raised his hand. Okay. Um, and then core maintainers who can be present. I can. It looks like George and Evans. Anybody else who's a core maintainer here can be present next week, whether they know they can. Um, also
Yes, I
Evans.
can.
Okay, great. We are only 1 minute over. I think that's pretty good. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you on. Thanks, Karen, for taking notes and for everybody like really engaging this week, and also for tiny shout out. Oh my gosh, we don't have time for this, but shout out to you all, and we'll see you on Slack on the Helm Dev channel and on Slack next week.
Thank you. Bye.